Hi, it's Jordana, a pediatric dietitian. Today I'm going to be answering the question about baby feeding routines. It's one of the biggest things that I get asked when I'm teaching my weaning workshops. How do we add in food and keep the milk? Or how do we start to slow down with the milk whilst we're starting to increase food? Now, what's the most important thing here is understanding that for the first year of life, milk is going to be remaining your baby's main source of nutrition. Food is there to give some essential nutrients like iron and like choline, but milk is still going to be giving them the most of their nutrients and pretty much all of their calories within this first year of life. When we're looking at feeding routines, what's important is for the younger baby. So when I'm talking about the younger baby, I'm talking of that baby between 6 to 9 months. So the younger baby in terms of starting solids. Between that age of 6 to 9 months, we would be always offering milk first, and then we would be following it with food. We would be leaving a window of anywhere between 45 to 60 minutes. If your baby really is not interested in solid foods, try to stretch that window to the longest angle, so to that around 60 minutes. What we're really looking for here is so that our babies aren't starving hungry when we're introducing them to solids, but that they're also not full, because if they're full, they just won't have any desire to be trying something new. As we move into that older baby age, so that 9 to 12 month sector, we just have to simply flip this around. So we flip it so that now food is offered first, followed by milk at that same window, so waiting between 45 to 60 minutes. In terms of now adding in the meal times, when we're first starting with solids, we're only introducing one meal per day. And it's really a little meal and a slow meal. It's about just giving them those first tastes. As we've moved past these first tastes, and it would roughly be anywhere between 10 days to around 3 weeks, we would then be introducing a second meal, and on the same pattern, 10 days to 2 weeks or so, we would then be introducing a third meal. Generally, by the age of 7 months or so, we have babies on 3 meals per day. There is absolutely no requirement for any baby under the age of 1 to be having a snack. When we're looking at the timings of these meals, I generally like to work with starting off with lunch. Then when we're introducing that second meal, we would be doing breakfast and lunch. And then when we're doing that third meal, we can be doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Some other health professionals would be saying, let's start with lunch, but then when we're moving on to those 2 meals, we can go breakfast and dinner. This can sometimes affect baby sleep and help them to sleep a little bit better. But as I've mentioned in some other videos, that it doesn't always work like this. The reason why I start off earlier on in the day is purely that when we start introducing solids, we're also introducing these allergenic foods. And so we're wanting our babies to get this exposure, but rather give that exposure to them earlier on in the day, so that if there is a need for them to be seeking medical attention, we actually have time to deal with it, versus it happening later on in the evening when everything is a little bit more difficult to be managing. In terms of rough timings, the windows that I would generally be recommending is that we're doing breakfast between 8 and 8:30. We would be doing lunch between 11 and 12, and then dinner we're doing between 4:30 and 5:30. Most important timing is actually going to be dinner. We don't want to push dinner too late. One reason for that is that we know that if you're bathing your baby afterwards, they need about a 20-minute gap between eating and then before bathing. Ideally, if you can, make that a little bit longer. The earlier that we do put them into water afterwards, the more likely that they are to poop in the bath. The other thing with feeding them at nighttime is that the later it gets, the more tired and the more kind of over the day that they get. And so it is less likely that they're going to be wanting to eat and stay engaged in that activity. So if you can do it earlier, you're going to get more calories and more nutrients into them through food. Looking at these feeding routines as well, really concentrate or really look at that right at the beginning of introducing them to solids. We don't need to be kind of forcing and going, oh, we must be having breakfast now, we must be having dinner now. And if you skip a meal, it's absolutely fine. Just leave it for that day and try again at a later meal, or try again tomorrow. It's not, like I said, the most important thing for them to be getting. Milk is still there, and milk is still providing them with most of their nutrition. Look at these kind of routines and timings and really try to figure out what works well with your family. What I have found with these timings is that they generally work well for a baby whose routine is kind of going between that 7 to 7. So they're waking up at 7 in the morning, and then their bedtime is at 7 tonight. If you were kind of a little bit later, just shift everything out a bit so that your breakfast would be, let's say, at around 10 a.m. and then your lunch would be at around 2 and then your dinner would be at around 7 or so. It's really just about working that window. I wish you all luck, and if you're wanting help with a feeding routine, you can get in touch. See you all soon. Bye.